Hello there YouTube, and welcome along to another one of the episodes of Steve's Let's Talk. Of course, this is a brand new series in my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial, where I talk all things, just various topics really. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the iPhone SE 2020, which has recently been announced on the 15th of April 2020, which was last week. So without further ado, let's have a little further insight to what we can expect with the iPhone SE 2020 ahead of its release to the world. And while I talk over, actually let's just take a look while I talk at the trailer that Apple released last week on the 15th of April 2020. This is what they released on their social media pages and their YouTube channel. Of course, this is the trailer for the iPhone SE 2020. And of course, the iPhone SE 2020 is Apple's brand new cheap iPhone, starting at just $399 over in the US, £419 in the UK, and in Australia it is 749 Australian dollars over there. Yet it still offers the specs, camera and screen size of something that's been much more expensive before today. The new iPhone SE isn't called the iPhone 9 as some had expected, as the company has decided to the SE moniker, first used in 2016. So it is essentially replaces and improves on the iPhone 8, which is now discontinued, and Apple's product page redirects to a splashy notice about the iPhone SE 2020, while maintaining the same price point as the original iPhone SE. Apple launched the new iPhone SE to muted fanfare this time around, thanks to the changing times around us all, delivering it on press release rather than calling in journalists from around the world to congregate in the Steve Jobs Theatre. So let's take a look then and have a look at the release date and the price for the iPhone SE 2020. So the iPhone SE 2020 release date is set for Friday, April 24th. That's today, so it is available now. And of course, pre-orders are open now. But they were open now, shall I say. They began on Friday, April 17th through Apple's official website and other retailers. The iPhone SE price, as I said earlier in this video, starts at $399 in the US, £419 in the UK, and in Australia it's 749 Australian dollars, meaning it's the same price in the US as the original iPhone SE, but higher in the UK. The base model comes with 64GB of storage with 128GB and 256GB models also available for a higher price. And in fact, let's take a look at those now, because we've got here the model. So the 64GB iPhone SE 2020, that's going to be £419 in the UK. In the US, that's $399, and in Australia, it's $749 Australian dollars. The 128GB model is $449 US dollars. £469 in the UK, and 829 Australian dollars. And the 256GB model for the iPhone SE 2020 is $549 US dollars, £569 in the UK, and in Australian dollars it's 999 Australian dollars. So there we go, and of course there we go. So that's the prices for you. So let's take a look then at the iPhone SE 2020 design and the display. Because if you're familiar with the design of the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 7, 6S and 6, then you already know what the new iPhone SE will look like. It's backwards compatible with all iPhone 8 cases and has the same 4.7-inch Retina HD display as found on the last 4.7-inch model. It gets the same True Tone technology as the latest models too, enabling it to adapt to the lighting conditions around you and make the screen's white balance to warmer or cooler. It's also using the haptic touch system that Apple brought to the iPhone 11 range, where a long press will activate a separate menu and buzz designed to replicate the feeling of a physical press. As the design is almost identical to an iPhone 8, that means there's a Touch ID home button built into the bottom bezel on the phone's front, which is good news for those who want a iPhone that has got that home button on it and not the full screen display like you find on the iPhone X or XR or even recent models like the iPhone 11. So of course you'll be able to unlock your phone with your fingerprint using this rather than using Face ID as on other modern iPhones, which for some people will be a little simpler to use if a tiny bit less secure. It also means there's no notch here as well, and the notch basically is the little top bar that you normally find on recent iPhone models where it houses like the speaker and the camera, etc, etc. So there's no notch as there is on several recent iPhone models. Instead there's a bezel at the top of the display as well as at the bottom, with the top bezel housing the selfie camera. The phone is IP67 dust and water resistant, which means it'll be able to survive the odd splash of water or outing in the rain. You've got the choice of 3 colours as well. So you've got black, white or product red, which is just another name for red. On the bottom edge of the iPhone SE you'll find a lightning connector for charging your device. As was widely expected, there's no 3.5mm headphone jack, so you'll have to purchase an adapter if you want to use wired headphones. Now this adapter is basically a lightning port adapter thing, so it goes into the lightning port on your iPhone, and then of course at the bottom of that lightning adapter thing it's got a little headphone jack where you just simply put your headphone jack in if you've got a wired headphone, and you can still listen to your music that way. So there we go. Let's take a look at the specs and the battery life of the iPhone SE 2020 now. So while the design of the iPhone SE 2020 might seem similar to the iPhone 8, inside it's a different story. Where the iPhone 8 used the A13 Bionic chipset, the new iPhone SE packs the same A13 Bionic engine that powers the iPhone 11 range. That's a pretty big improvement for the new iPhone SE. Apple says it's up to 40% faster than the iPhone 8 and more than twice as fast as the iPhone SE 2016 that it's replacing in name. So we'll take a look at the specs of this. So the weight of the phone is 148 grams. The dimensions is 138.4 by 67.3 by 7.3 mm. The display size is 4.7 inch. Resolution is 1334 by 750. The pixel density is 326 ppi. The chip is the A13 Bionic. The RAM is 3 gig, but it's not confirmed by Apple. The storage is 64 gig, 128 gig and 256 gig. The rear camera is 12 megapixels, the front camera is 7 megapixels, and the battery, which has not been confirmed by Apple, is 1821 mAh. So it allows the speed under the finger to be improved in a range of ways. Faster snapping between apps is a given, so that's one of them. And things like video editing on your device and computational photography. So more on that in a few moments, by the way, are now possible. So what's interesting is that Apple is stating that the iPhone SE's battery life will be the same as that of the iPhone 8, despite the A13 chip being more efficient in terms of power. That means you should be expect up to 12 hours of internet use, or it'll just last about a day on a single charge. You'll be able to buy a separate iPhone fast charger to power up your new iPhone SE more quickly. So if you go for one with 18 watt of power or more, you'll be able to get topped up in less time than using the standard USB to Lightning plug that comes in the box. And you'll be able to charge the new iPhone SE wirelessly with a QI charger too. For storage, as mentioned, your options are 64 gig, 128 gig or 256 gig, and there's no micro SD support for expanding that, so make your decision wisely. SE. According to a listing on China Telecom, the iPhone SE will come with 3 GB of RAM. Apple hasn't confirmed this, and it's unlikely to officially give us this sort of detail. So of course, for now, if we do want to find this out for ourselves, we are going to have to wait patiently for someone to tear down the new iPhone to confirm it and post that video online, of course, to YouTube. The same report also says the cell inside the phone is 1821 mAh, which is the same as the battery inside the iPhone 8. The phone will come running with the latest version of iOS 13 out of the box, so you can expect all of the software features that the most recent iPhones have. So we're going to take a look now at the camera for the iPhone SE 2020, because the new iPhone SE 2020 camera is where Apple has placed a lot of importance, talking about the extra capabilities it'll be imbued with. It'll be based on similar specs to those seen in the iPhone 8, which comes with a 12 megapixel sensor and an aperture of 1.8 for fairly decent low light photos, although it'll be a far cry from the high-end photography features of the iPhone 11 range. If you want a strong performance at night mode, you won't be getting it with the iPhone SE 2020, despite having the more advanced image processor inside. Despite only packing a single sensor, not even the dual sensor setup found in the iPhone 8 Plus, Apple is still lauding this as the best single sensor snapper it's ever created. That's making it even better than the iPhone XR's camera. So while the hardware seems very similar to that in the iPhone 8, with a 6-element lens setup and optical image stabilization, the A13 chipset allows for better correction of shake during video playback, as well as a smart image processor to make your snaps look better. It also brings portrait mode and the full gamut of effects, from standard background blur to the odd high key light mono to the single sensor, as well as we saw with the iPhone XR. Like that model, it will only be able to add those effects to snaps of humans, but the front-facing camera has been given the same algorithmic upgrade as the rear sensor, meaning portrait modes selfies without the need for a separate sensor to check the depth and find the subject. However, what Apple has done here is bring its smart computational photography to a cheaper iPhone, meaning it will let the onboard engine do the work in terms of making your pictures look as good as they can. It'll be as good as the iPhone 11 range at working out what's being photographed and analysing each section, each going as far as dividing up the separate elements of facial features and brightening and sharpening where needed. It's theoretically be able to combine a range of exposures to create a clear, bright image with very low shutter lag under the finger, and be able to shoot high-end 4K video at 60 frames per second too. With extended dynamic range, video recording is given greater power too, allowing highlights and shadows to be improved and enhanced with a basic movie. All features that Apple is hoping will make this an incredibly powerful stills and video recorder for a much lower price. Given that the new iPhone SE is coming with a similar price tag to the iPhone 8, but with the promise of much better photos, you can see why Apple is going to be making a big deal about the camera upgrade. So we're going to take a look now at the iPhone SE and how that compares to the recent iPhone 11 range, which was only released last year in 2019. Well, for starters, the iPhone SE 2020 will be a much cheaper device than the entry-level iPhone 11, as you probably worked out. In fact, it's half the cost. A lot of what's been sacrificed to keep the price down is in the design. The screen technology and quality on the iPhone 11 is far ahead of that in the new iPhone SE, which is using the same screen setup as the iPhone 8 from 2017. By repurposing the iPhone 8's design and imbuing it with a faster engine and the smarts that allows Apple was able to offer the cheaper iPhone in the same way it launched the iPhone SE way back in 2016, all the benefits of the older design but with more powerful innards. Users who hate the thought of losing the home button should be really considering checking the new iPhone SE out as soon as possible, as it will likely be the last phone Apple makes with this piece of physical hardware. Don't forget, it's not actually a clickable button neither. It'll be the phone many tell their parents to buy, as it will last at least 3 cycles of new iOS launches, if not more. So there we go. That is everything that comes with the iPhone SE. That is all the details that I can bring you on the iPhone SE. And to be honest with you, I do kind of agree with what I was just saying there, in terms of, you know, earlier in the video, where basically Apple have only quietly released this new iPhone. Normally they would probably do a very special event where they release this kind of hardware, but given the circumstances or what's happening around the world right now, obviously Apple aren't able to do press launches or anything like that. And speaking of that, very quick, I just want to touch upon WWDC, which normally takes place in June. Now, obviously, that's not going to be really happening now this year, unfortunately, due to what's going on around the world. But Apple are still going to be doing a digital event, I believe, where they will be showing off their next iOS update, which will be due to be released when they announce the next set of iPhones, hopefully at the end of the towards the end of this year, maybe in September. Whether that's with a press or whether again they do that event digitally is obviously going to be up to them. But yeah, hopefully soon we will be able to see what the next iOS has in store for iPhone users, for the members of the public, for the developers, of course, when they get their hands on the next iOS update, of course, to for them to be able to work, to get their apps to work with that next iOS update, I guess. So there we go. That is everything that I can bring you in terms of the iPhone SE. Like I said, the iPhone SE is now available to buy in, of course, all good mobile retailers here in the UK and, of course, worldwide. So if you do want to check out the contracts or the pay-as-you-go deals, then go ahead and check out Vodafone, 3, and EE as well. There's all these other mobile supermarkets out there. Even check out mobiles.co.uk as well. They do deals on contracts and pay-as-you-go deals as well. So that's my thoughts. That's a little thing there about the iPhone SE. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you found it very informative, and I hope that's kind of, if you are looking at buying the iPhone SE 2020, I hope that's kind of made your decision, made your mind up as to whether you want to get the phone or not. Obviously this is your now deal breaker here, so there we go. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, then give this video a thumbs up, hit the like button down below. If you're not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please give it a subscribe. The subscribe button is down below. So that is all from me. I'll be back again tomorrow on the 25th of April 2020 with my next video, which will be my UK Top 40 official charts. But from me though, it's goodbye, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.